Howdy ho.
Hey, welcome to the Bird and the Bee podcast. I'm the bird, aka Colibri.
And I'm the bee.
And if you guys can hear the weather sirens right now, we have a storm rolling in. We're not sure if it's going to hit us or not yet, but we have the windows open because it's kind of hot here in the studio. It's pretty muggy today. So you might hear the breeze, but it's a beautiful breeze. Hey, how you doing? It's been a busy string of days, hasn't it?
Yeah, I caught 2 skunks in a trap. The last thing you want to catch in a trap, because it's good to get rid of them under the house, but then it's the problem of getting them out of the trap, because one I still have in there, but the other one, like, I had to take him down. You know, I had approached him with a tarp and like very slowly covered him, and then, you know, so I wouldn't get sprayed, because that's like the main thing you want. But luckily the first one went smooth, didn't spray at all, and I took him down the road in the woods and then propped him open with like a brick in his trap, and then I came back. I didn't want to pry him out because he was facing the wrong way, but I had to I just came back and he was gone when I came back. But
well, it went smooth for you. He caught it in the trap and didn't tell anybody, and I let the dog out. She got sprayed, I got sprayed. We ended up having to clean ourselves up. It was shenanigans and disaster, but I'm glad the rest of it went smoothly.
Yeah. And if you could tell by the sound of my voice, I definitely was like sick like 2 or 3 days ago, but we had like another crazy windstorm that blew in, and I don't know, there was dust covered on everything, like all the vehicles and everything, and like I don't know. So it was a mixture of sickness and like I've never had allergies in my life, but I feel like I have it because I'm just all like stuffy and sinusy and stuff. But
I believe it's called a DeSoto, right? I think, but it was in Oklahoma, and there were winds up to 180 miles an hour. And we were on the very outskirts of the storm cell. It's a massive storm cell, and it covered the whole state of Oklahoma, and we're right there in north central Texas. So we caught it was like upwards of 45-mile-an-hour winds. It was pretty intense here. It was it was blowing the roof, so I definitely need to check the roof tomorrow. I completely forgot. Yeah, well, it blew out one of the ceiling panels in the littlest room, and you could see the roof, the plastic and the insulation blowing about. So I need to check the roof, actually. I'm glad I just remembered that because I completely forgot. Before that, though, last Friday we had the open mic at the Taste of the Islands, and I ended up hosting the whole thing, which was so much fun. I had a blast doing that. I felt so comfortable on stage. I really missed it. We had 20 open micers show up. Shout out to all you guys for supporting and for letting us love on you and support you as well. We'll be doing it the last Friday of every month from now on. So that's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think it went well because like the owner was there, and you know, people showed up, people were buying stuff. So, you know, a couple of videos I watched, the whole thing about like hosting an event or an open mic is to provide value to the venue. So I'm glad that, because otherwise, people rent the venue out, but otherwise, like, none of those people would have been there buying stuff. So I'm hoping I could tell. I think it went well because she said she was already asking. Other people were asking her about it.
Happy about it. Yeah, she was really happy with the turnout, and everything flowed real smoothly. I'm feeling better these days. I put myself on my own kind of natural prescription of some free-form amino acids, just a full spectrum of them. And I've been taking Alpha Brain by Onnit. That's been really, really helping with the nootropics. So cognitive ability, memory, focus, everything. I've been taking an exorbitant amount just to boost myself of the amino acids. Amino acid profile. I can already see a difference in my skin and feel a difference in my joints and muscles and ligaments and tendons and whatnot. And then also put myself on a mega dose of cod liver oil and omega-3 fatty acids. So I'm sure you notice I'm a lot more up this week. Happy about that. Sleeping better. The sun's come out, so I've been in the garden planting all the things and reimagining the food forest and setting some new stuff up. That's been fun. Seedlings are popping up. The fruit trees are blooming. Everything's bud breaking. So, oh, here comes the rain. So life is in full effect. What you got going on?
I've been reading it. Well, I've been listening to this audiobook, Born to Run, which is really got me back into. I mean, obviously like spring too, like you're saying, but got me rejuvenated into like running again, and for various reasons. But I don't know. The book, it talks about like just like how we were like literally like born, like bred to run, like how just through evolution, and how like we evolved into like just even like the certain specifics to like we have like this specific little nunca tendon in the back of our head that like stabilizes our head when we run, and only like dogs and horses have it, because like if you watch like a pig run, like they did like on a treadmill, it's like just flying all over the place, and us, you know, it keeps us stable, and they're correlating to that whole thing about like some point in history our brains like doubling in size, and they're correlating to like some people say something else, it was diet, which, you know, they're saying we start eating a lot more protein, but also you know, just the fact that running like might have made our brains bigger. But and then it was talking about like, you know, how running shoes are like terrible for us, and how Nike kind of created that business model and kind of created a problem, and then made an offer to like a solution for it. And I don't know, it's an awesome book, and it's talking about the Tarahumara people, Huamari. But these like, it's like the last like running, they're like the running people in Mexico, and like that's like all they do is run, and they run like 20, like marathons are like nothing for them. Like there's like this one guy who like tried to take him to Colorado and did this like these like 100-mile mountain runs and stuff, and like because like, or first people tried to put him in marathons and they didn't like win him, so people are like, oh, these guys aren't really that great. But then they're telling him like, yeah, marathons they're kind of too short for these people, because like they start kicking it in like at 40, 50 miles, and then they just like leave everyone in the dust. And but they correlate it to because they have like fun doing it, like, or it's just enjoyable. And like at one point it was like mile 80 or 90 or something in one of these, and there's like this huge like ascent they have to go up, and then they
goodness, I am so sorry.
Uh-oh. Too much powder?
I don't have a terrible tickle in my throat.
We'll take a pause.
Apologies, I got a terrible tickle in my throat. Woo! You were saying?
Yeah, I'm trying to see what specifics about this tribe that I have, some notes. Let me see.
Well, I remember I was watching a documentary. I think it was just tribal people documentary, and I remember. Oh yeah, I was looking them up because I was looking at their food practices and the way that they grow food up in the canyons, and how they live within the caves. And I thought it was just so gorgeous and simple, and their how they adorn themselves, their outfits, the way that they create their cloth is so colorful and beautiful. Just everything about the way that they live is so fascinating.
They're such reclusive people, and the author was saying for people like, because they talk about people who like would try and find them, and they literally like stumble, like they're walking on top of their houses and they don't even know they're there. But for people who are so reclusive, they look fantastic, like they're bright colors, but
lots of blue and red.
But they wear like these rubber like not mucklucks. What is those things you used to sell?
Oh yeah.
Huaraches.
Huaraches.
And they and they're like running these crazy marathons, like 100-mile races in these shitty sandals, and like smoking people. But one thing I was talking about, like shoes, like one guy who was like a runner, he was like a track guy, and he started going barefoot / minimal footwear. And they said his shoe size went from like a size 12 to size 9 because of, like, his arches got higher, and like just not stuffed in his shoe, and like he's running like he's instead of heel striking, he's like in the front. And
yeah.
Oh, and one thing I loved about one of their secret energy foods was Iskiate, I think it was called, and it's like chia seeds, a little sugar and lime, and like soaked, but one of them was saying it was kind of like a liquid, but I don't know if it's like a liquidy slash, like I think they just do a higher ratio and they just like drink it, but
Yeah.
and it's like they swear it just gives them like super energy, and that got me. We used to eat it all the time. That got me back into that too, and.
Well, I eat chia seeds every day. I love my chia pudding. I can't live without it. It's kind of an acquired taste for a lot of people, so I just keep it to myself. But I make all sorts of different versions of it. I love them. And that's just wonderful, especially when we were vegan. It's wonderful because it's a complete protein nutritionally. And so I even though I eat them every day, it's just because I had such an exorbitant amount of stress for the last year and a half or so, or 2 years, that it was really wearing and tearing on my immune system. My nervous system was completely out of balance, but we're coming back online with everything, which is really great. Yeah, it's so cute to see you soaking your chia seeds, making your chia pudding for the next day, because I'm like, aw, someone's eating chia with me again.
Yeah, like when I'm eating it, and like when I'm running, I think about these Tarahumara people, and I'm just like, oh man, these guys could go crazy. And they're talking about that chia seed thing and how it was like home brewed. Oh. Whoa, that'll look cool on video.
The big storm's coming in. I need to close this window, actually.
But they called it home brewed Red Bull because it just juices them up. And it was talking about how they're running, and then there's like a village they live in this crazy canyon that's like in the middle of nowhere, and it's like kind of like no man's land where there's like some people like go on the run there from the Mexican government, and they kind of establish where like, all right, if you go out there, you're like, we're not going to chase you because you're kind of on your own. You're pretty much going to die out there, but these people like live and thrive out there. And they're talking about one village that's kind of like a little miles down the canyon. It was called Mesa de la Yerba Buena, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And they had like they had some of the best runners that would come out of there, and then the Mexican government put like this road like on one of their trails, so like trucks started coming down there, and then they started bringing in stuff they didn't normally eat, like sugar, chocolate, starches, soda was one, and then
wheat.
And then so instead of like working and being, because they're essentially like hunter gatherers, they're sent pretty much, but. And then, so people started like working in like dishwashers and shit they get rides in the city and just jobs. And then like 20 years later, there were no runners in that little village at all because they all just got, westernized essentially.
There's nothing more heartbreaking.
Which is crazy. 20 years. That's like one generation. And just
yeah. It happens that quickly.
Yeah. So yeah, they stopped working their own land and just working for the industry.
Nutrition can be so simple, especially when you're just dealing with whole foods. And what I watched in the documentary was that they do grow some of their food, but it's really minimal. Like she had onions and peppers, and I think she had like, it almost looked like Indian red rice or something, like a quinoa type of.
Was this the Tarahumara people?
Rice, yeah, like a rice grass. And she would collect that. But I loved the way that they just had ladders up to their caves up in the canyon, and then they would just pull the ladders up, and they would just be in this cave, and they had little
in a canyon. Yeah,
they had little shelving with their minimal potware, cookingware, and whatever they needed, an extra pair of shoes, their huaraches, and I just love how minimal and simple. And the more minimal and simple that people are, they tend to be the happiest.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I don't remember what people they were talking about, but they were talking about how. Oh, it was like this guy was he was looking into persistence hunting, which is they just run until the animal gets tired, which they found out is really not that like. I mean, there's a lot of work involved, but it only takes like 3 to 5 hours max. They said.
To wear them out.
Because this doctor was obsessed with it, and it took him forever to even find persistent. There's like literally 6. It was like 6 dudes that he found that did it in the whole world. And it was like somewhere in South Africa, and it took him forever to find them. But and so he like went out. He like lived with them for like 4 years, and he was talking about like because he was like this crazy doctor he was talking about so much about like lung capacity and like this crazy amount of like how we can certain animal like he was talking about like
we can outrun
cheetahs.
any animal on the
when
planet
cheetahs run,
when it comes to endurance.
their organs like slosh around. So like every time they go forward, like they take their back extends their organs like hit their lungs, so it kind of helps them take a breath and it goes back out, but they only get like a certain amount per footsteps, and then but like for human, we can do like as many as we want, and then how. So he's just talking about how these animals get overheated when they just chase them, and then they just like lay down, and then they just like stab them, and then they just like, collect them. But even then, it took them like they had to hike like they said they hiked 20 miles, and then they got to the point where they saw the first they tried to do was gazelle, and then there was like a kudu, and then they were talking about how they like the kudu took longer, but they because you think they just chase one, but they're smart because they knew they know the game that's going on, so they'd tire one out, and then they'd circle back into the pack, and then they'd lose which one they were chasing. So then, but they were talking about how these trackers were so good that they would track their footprints and specific ones in their dung based on their intestines that shape it. So they were these guys are crazy, but how good they were. But I don't know, I just thought that was super interesting.
It is super interesting. It made me think about this opportunity that we have with Sharon and Billy. They have the Calhoun farm that we were speaking to in a prior episode, but they're going nomadic for about a year, just like Sister Francis and the family. A lot of people that I know actually are wanting to go nomadic again. They're itching, feeling this vibe of movement again. So Sharon's actually wanting to get rid of some of her goats. So we've been considering that. And yeah, there's a lot of variables that play into that. But the reason I brought that up is because you were talking about them just, gutting the animal. And we were talking about whether we would be capable of harvesting a goat or not.
Yeah.
For meat, because that's, we want the experience of raising a mammal, of raising a larger livestock, a ruminant.
Yeah, because things get different.
Starting out with goats,
you harvest a mammal versus like a bird, you just chop their head off. But because then unless you shoot its head, you gotta like cut its throat, and I'm like, that's so much more visceral. Because you're a little removed when you like chop. I mean, I guess you still have using like a knife, or an axe type of thing.
Well, so we haven't.
You're a lot more in there, and you're gonna feel like the blood come out, and
we haven't harvested a live mammal yet. It's been roadkill or found meat, and so I'm curious. I'm curious if you could put yourself in that position and see yourself doing it.
I mean, if I had to, yeah, but it's just it's. Because it's one of those things. Because I remember hearing Ranella talk about. He's the host of Meat Eater, and he was in New Zealand, and he was with this dude who hunted pigs with knives, or dogs and knives, and so the dogs would just chase him into these holes, and then they'd get stuck in there, and he literally just pull them out by their legs, and he was so good at he just like knew where to stab them in the heart, and they're just talking about how you're sharing their last breath and how intimate it is versus like a rifle. You can be like hundreds of yards away and shoot it, or a bow. You're a little closer, but it's a lot more intimate. So it's like.
I think I agree with that more. I mean, every time we harvest an animal, we pray over it anyway. So I think it would be the same. I think there would even be more soul in it than with a chicken.
I would try its blood. I would take like a little shot of blood. I wouldn't drink a whole lot because I don't want to like shock my system. But just that's what hunter gatherers do, and like they. And they always have like the healthiest guts, or a gut biome, but I'm down to try it.
Izzy and I were talking about this because in Jamaica they have, like goat head soup, and West Indies they do like a blood stew, and so
Spartan style.
And and so I of course am curious and want to try these things, especially culturally for the girls because it's part of their culture.
So do you want to get it? I mean, because we have to like build a shelter for them and shit. Or do you just want to get them and harvest them? Like I don't know about like keeping them around.
They're gonna come over and help us build a lean-to. They might just even bring theirs on the trailer. I do want them. I want them to clear all the poison ivy because they're really good for that. So we have that massive poison ivy tree. I'd love for them to eat, and then for their fertilizer, of course. Because I want a massive compost pile. I'm starting one in the middle of the food forest.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't have that much like grass like over there anymore. Like no grass grows.
Yeah, but I can harvest all the grass from Bill's side.
Some feed and stuff.
I could take a ton of grass from Bill's side, and especially after they mow, I can just rake all that up. That's not a problem. Grass is not a problem around here. We don't have a problem finding it.
Yeah. Well, one last thing on the I found super interesting was like they look in terms of the running, this guy, the doctor who lived with the persistence hunters, they did this thing where they looked at, it was like in 2009, they looked at like the Boston Marathon runners and their times and their ages, and like I think they did it for a few years, but they were talking about how at age 19, they started at 19, and then each year up till 27, you'd peak at 27 in terms of like times, and then and I'll ask you the riddle, or it's kind of like a koan, but at what age so it takes from 19 to 27, you hit your peak term in terms of times, and then at what age do you think it takes to get back to where you were at 19? Like, because that's like a 8-year gap. Like, what age do you think it gets back to how good you were at 19?
I don't think I really understand the question.
Okay, so they just took the age from 19, and for the runners and the times, the best was at 27 years old.
Okay.
Well, that was their peak years, peak times.
Yeah.
And then, so that's an 8-year gap. So up in 19, 21, each year that, your times get better, and at 27, they taper down. But at what age they taper down? At what age do you think it tapers down to where it's back to the 19-year-old times?
I'd say 42. Probably around 42.
The author, his guess was 45. Or he was like, he thought 35, and he's like, then he goes 40.
Say 45 was my initial
and then
answer, and then I was like,
the guy
between
smiled.
42 and 45.
The guy smiled, and he goes 45, and then but it turns out it was like 64 was the age of like that their times are equivalent to like 19-year-olds. And he's talking about how like long distance running and how what other activity or sport does like can a 64-year-old compete with 19-year-olds? And he's just talking about like the longevity of it and how we're like kind of like again born to run, like because how we can do that forever, and like how
training is like that.
It's kept us alive for a long time.
Bodybuilding is the same way. I got to witness that firsthand with my dad because he was a senior Olympics bodybuilder at one point, and I remember him being better in his 60s and 70s than he was when he was teaching me how to rollerblade when he was like 55 years old. So it's one of those long-standing trainings, those endurance trainings, where you just get better with age. I think surfing's kind of the same way. I witnessed that with surfing. Anything on wheels, of course, is a little trickier.
Yeah, just balance and stuff. But
yeah, but also with like old clients of mine, I had a client that was, how old is he? Yeah, he was in his early 60s, and he was a mountain dirt biker. He did mountain trail biking, and until he snapped his neck, he really fucked up his neck really bad. He was pretty incredible. He used to show me footage of his GoPro. I just couldn't believe some of these trails this guy took. Like, it just looked like you were just going to fall straight down off the side of in his 60s. So these people, they give me hope to keep, honing my body as I get older. Yeah, to just get better with age.
Yeah, that was
especially with training muscles.
That's what brought me to this.
Muscles get better with age.
It's like I've heard this in terms of other words put in. It said you don't stop running because you get old. You get old because you stop running. Yeah. So they're basically saying how.
Yeah, if you stop moving, your body starts to atrophy. It's just like with dancing,
just using your
walking,
just move your leg. They're talking about just like, and I saw like some recent studies about that, about like, because it's almost like, fat shamers take offense to this, about how just getting up and exercising and how how it helps with like your mental health and your physical health. About this kind of adds to the show. This I hope this wasn't like the final one.
No, this is kind of fun.
Wow.
Well, that's kind of that reminds me of the 6 doctors, right? The 6 doctors. There's movement, diet, or exercise, right? Is equal to movement, diet, sun, fresh water, fresh air, and adequate sleep. Like, those are the 6 things that you essentially need in order to maintain fantastic health in life. Other than that, you really don't need much.
Yeah.
If you look to those 6 doctors first, then you won't need a medical doctor for much.
Yeah, in terms of like, obviously, you like, what do they call it? Like the type of medical like Like, you know how they say like our medical system came from like war trauma, not infantry, nursery. You know, but ours is, you know, it's great for like if you get your leg blown off or you need to like shit like that. Triage, yes, thank you. So it's great for that, but in terms of like going to that for like, you know, your hormonal health or like your, you know, overall mental health, like it's not great for that. But yeah, in terms of because you're talking about if you get sun, you know, that's like that'll balance all your hormones and like which is hard, air and water, because that's all, you know, things get so polluted nowadays. But so that's harder too. But and the diet, the food.
But
so
I was
it's
just
like
leading a breathwork exercise yesterday and inviting people to engage with me in a breathwork exercise and breathing. Okay, so breathing is just automatic, right? It's part of your automatic system. But to properly breathe and to breathe in and to take in life and to expel stress and you know, there's different breath meditations that help with detox, right? There's like detox breathing, there's energetic breathing. Like yesterday I was engaging in circle breathing, which can get actually really intense, and most of the time you do that in through the nose and out through the nose, and so you just do that continuously, and it creates this sort of euphoric out of body experience after a while. But what I was engaging in what I was inviting people to engage with me in was in through the nose, out through the mouth, so that whenever we brought in that delicious prana, we would try to amplify it. And I was leading the meditation in having someone imagine or envision soaking in and taking in energy through every surface of your skin. You know, breathing in through your skin, through your whole vessel, your whole being. And then whenever you breathe out, instead of just expelling stress, actually amplifying your energy and radiating out an amplified energy, so that we were just this cycle of gorgeous amplifying breaths sitting together. You know, so I mean, you might not have the freshest air if you're living in the Western world, but what you can do is focus on properly breathing. You know, really taking in the richness of life, the prana, the good shit.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember that breathing book you're reading. I remember reading that a while back, and the only quote I remember from it is, "Breath is the bridge between spirit and matter."
That's right.
And I always thought that was a great quote. Just putting in perspective of the power of breathing and what it connects to, how it connects, spirit to body, and what you can do with it. And
yes, there's so much power in breath. Even just one tip, if I was to leave one tip with anyone who's ever asked, or with my clients, is 6 deep breaths. There's 2 rules that you can remember if you're prone to panic attacks or anxiety attacks, or if you're doing a body scan and you notice the tightness in your chest and the tightness in your gut, and if you're about to get explosive with somebody, or you're getting a little self-abusive because you're making, you know, perceived mistakes, or you're just having a stressful day, just to step back, count backwards from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and take 6 deep breaths. Because whenever you go into that stress mode, your mind shuts down, and you don't remember all of your coping skills, or all the tools in your toolbox just kind of fall all over the floor, and you forget yourself. But the 2 easiest things to remember are those 6 deep breaths. I count backwards from 5, 6 deep breaths, just to talk down your nervous system, just to get yourself equalized again.
It's a good tip.
I just thought I'd bring that to the table.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you.
I got a random question for you. What was the first thing you shoplifted?
I was never much of a shoplifter, but when my eldest was an infant and we had gotten out of growing, we were in Denver and we were growers, and I wanted to get out of growing because I now had a child, and the carpet business that I had, that we had shared, was going under because there was this influx of people that were coming across the border, and they were working for far less than we were, and they were supplying carpet for far less than we were. So, yeah, so literally the South Park, they took our jobs. It seriously happened to us. So we were in a bit of a tough time, and we had quite a lifestyle to maintain at the time. And so I had never even shopped at Walmart because I didn't want to be part of the big box brand. But yeah, one time, I'm telling on myself right now, but yeah, one time I had put a bunch of like bulk meat in the bottom of my cart, and like, you know, big boxes of food, and I paid for everything that was in the top of my cart, and I walked out.
How old were you? Was it the first thing you ever shoplifted?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
You never took like candy bars as a kid or anything, or?
No, that was my little brother. He was the thief. He and my mom were thieves, but I always had this code of ethics with myself. I was like, no, if I haven't earned it, I'm, you know, it's not mine. And I couldn't, my conscience was so sensitive, I couldn't live with myself with it. So yeah, I'd never really shoplifted before that time, before desperation hit and I needed to feed my family.
The classic steal a loaf of bread thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Mine was
I was about to ask, what was yours? Avocados?
When I was a kid, I don't know, probably like 8, 5, I don't know, 7. That's so bad. I don't know, anywhere from like 5 to 10. I'm so bad with these kind of numbers, but I remember, you know, we didn't have internet back then or cell phones, and you know, me and my brother would play video games, and I'm trying to remember which specific ones we'd play, but you know, we'd get stuck on levels, and you know, we didn't know how to beat this level or something. And so the only way back then was they had like gaming magazines at like grocery stores that would give you like cheat codes, or just they'd like literally like, walk you through the game, like if you get stuck here, this is what, you know, what things to do. So I remember us like taking those magazines and just putting it in our pants and covering our shirts, and you know, just walk upright so you couldn't see it, and just out of desperation for the video game, that was the first thing we ever stole, was gaming magazines. So Asian and nerdy.
Oh, I was a huge gamer too in my young adulthood. Yeah, but I was such an avid customer at this game store up in Denver that they used to give me all of their displays, like their outdated neon displays and like pop-up displays and stuff, and I would get first dibs on the new releases, and they would always just hook me up with the cheat code mags and books and whatnot. So I kind of had an in on that. That was nice.
Yeah, being a girl helps.
Yeah, but I never used them until I absolutely got so frustrated. Like I remember the first time I used it for Tomb Raider. I was always kind of prideful that way too. I was like, no, I can figure this out, until I just got so stuck. I absolutely just
that's
couldn't get any further.
Steal it because we're like, dude, we are stuck.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I think I did that for Metal Gear Solid 2. I was stuck in this warehouse one time with a bunch of boxes, and I couldn't figure out the puzzle. Like, you know how you had to rearrange the crates inside to get through the warehouse?
I never played it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, anytime like there's like a puzzle, or like especially like adventure games where you like, you know, like you have to like get this one thing, and they'll tell you like, oh, you have to get it like way back in this city that you're in. So you're like, oh shit, like I would never have guessed that. But
yeah, I used to love to finish a game and then go back through and play on just story mode and find all the hidden art, you know, like artifacts and treasures and whatnot, like gems and things.
I remember the first, I think the non like gaming magazine, besides like candy bars and shit, I remember the first thing, I think my brother did it, but we were like did it in together, but it was was like a Sum 41 CD album, and it was like we're like, dude, when it's like storming through the party, like my name is El Nino, and we're like, dude, we gotta have that, man. And they're like, but he showed me them afterwards. I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. And and I remember once that reminded me of, I think it was like 2nd or 3rd grade. We had to like write poems, and I remember looking up lyrics, and one I remember, no, we had to. Okay, this is 2 stories. One, we had to like write a poem, and I remember I stole some Linkin Park lyrics, and I remember the teacher was like, "Whoa!" It was like, "You can't run the race because the pace is too fast. You just won't last." And I remember my teacher was like, "Wow, that's pretty good."
Pace
I was
is
like,
too fast. You just won't last.
And then I remember one year we had to bring in lyrics, and it was like it was on the radio, and I remember it was like that Nickelback song that was "Been down to the bottom of every bottle."
Oh, man.
And then I remember I didn't even see any harm in that. I didn't know that meant alcohol. And then I remember the teacher was like, maybe we should change bottle to can. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, what's the difference? But I thought it was like a soda bottle, but.
Oh, that's silly. Bottle to can.
But yeah, I see the dilemma as an adult with these little kids, and you're like, ooh, this is talking about drinking, you know, the whole whiskey bottle or something. So.
You got a soda problem, brother.
Like. I was like, yeah, what's the problem?
What made you ask that about shoplifting? What made you think about that?
I don't know. I was listening to something, and someone was like talking about some of their first shoplifting stories, and that maybe it just got me thinking. I was like, yeah, what was mine? And I was like, oh yeah, definitely those gaming magazines. And so I just thought I'd ask you to see what your answer was.
Yeah, that was it. And then when you and I got together, we had a little stint of just like, damn the man, and.
Well, that's when I was coming off the road,
we
so
were,
I was
what did we used to call it? We were just like freeing watermelons. Yeah. I
don't remember.
We're liberating. We were just liberating them. That's all.
I mean, because I was like living in my car on the road. I remember specifically in. God, I'm so stuffy. In Haight Street in San Francisco, I remember there's like a market there, and I would just pocket avocados there all the time. And I think I stole vitamins one time, like, because especially because every time I would leave and then every time I'd go into the city, I'd get like horrendously mucusy and like coughing shit up, and and so I remember like I remember stealing like some vitamins and shit, and but yeah, I remember like especially specifically they'd have like a shitload of like overly ripe avocados, and I remember just like I had this like. You remember that little red button jacket thing I had with all those little Indian faces on there? It had like a kind of a loose pocket on there, so I would just so it wouldn't bulge out. So I just put avocado in there, and you couldn't even tell. So, and I was like, every time and it's like 50, it's like $1, and I'm like, but I'm like,
yeah.
But yeah, we did get caught. Well, we didn't. We ate them in the store. It was those protein cookies, and we ate them in the store.
It was post-workout, and we went to go get supplies, emergency supplies for the type 1 diabetic in the family.
Yeah, the nurse at the school called us.
And we were famished because we just finished a workout, which was pretty hardcore. And so we figured we just pay for it at the front, and, you know, we were grazing, and we got detained for grazing for like $1.75.
Yeah.
A power bar.
Wasn't it
like granola bar?
No, it was like those Mike and Ike. Not
well,
Mike
you
and
had
Ike,
one of
Mike
those
and Larry
protein cookies,
yeah.
and I had a.
Well, I would definitely was gonna pay. I remember I stashed
like a Kind bar.
I pretended like I was grabbing something else, and then I put my wrapper in there, and then so when they pulled us in that little room, I was, you know, he was like, "Where's your wrapper at?" And I was like, "I don't know, man." I'm like, "You tell me." And then when we were
mine was in my purse. I was like, dude, I could just go pay for it right now. And she's like, that's not the point.
It's not how it works.
That's not how it works. If you could everyone would just go. Do you know how many people have asked me if they could just go back and pay for it? I was like, why wouldn't you just let someone go back and pay for it? That seems like the quickest route to justification.
Yeah, save some paperwork, man.
But no.
Let's right some wrongs here.
It's the
principle
of the thing.
And then after we were done, I remember in my shoe, I totally forgot about it. I think I didn't search this, but I had a joint rolled up in a plastic bag in my shoe. And we got out, and I was like, Oh my god, that was probably the sweetest joint I've ever smoked. But
Oh my gosh.
I just remember like because there's like 5 cops in there, and I was like,
So, well, they illegally searched my purse, first of all, and then I had a big unmarked bottle of ylang ylang essential oil in my purse, and it's in a like in a brown dropper bottle. And he goes, "What is this?" And the lady, oh yeah, it did have a little label on it, said ylang ylang on it, and she goes, "That's an essential oil." What's that? You sure this isn't like acid or something? And she goes, "Oh my god." She rolled his eyes at him. And then, I had one of my clients' credit cards in my purse because I was getting, I don't know, supplements for them or something.
not that they left it.
They left it at the house. And yeah, so they confiscated the credit card. They actually called my client, confiscated the credit card, and I had to explain to them later what happened. And it was just, thankfully, they were so understanding about it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that's like looks bad. Like having like, oh, I guess you like have multiple identities and you're using fake credit cards. I was like, oh god, like, I didn't even think like that. But I see why they were thinking that.
It was just all so innocent, and they just turned it into this.
I think we had to pay like it was like $175 each or something.
$300 a piece.
Oh, a piece? I can remember if that was total or not.
$340 a piece. Yeah.
Like the most expensive cookie I've ever ate.
Yeah. Oh wow. Anyway, stories from the fringe of our run-ins with the law, our seedier sides, y'all.
See, it's not even that. I mean, I get it, but yeah, I'm like, I don't feel. I would never steal from like a person, but yeah, like when it's like a giant corporation or something, I'm like, obviously you shouldn't do it, but I'm like, my not sympathy, but yeah, whatever. I'm like, whatever. What? Like this is hurting your bottom line. I'm like, come on. But I get if that like it can snowball but you know how in like I think it's specifically California where now I don't know if it's still going on, but definitely during like pandemic times they had this law where it's like if you weren't shoplifting something up to like $1,000, $999, they weren't gonna like do anything. They just let you walk out. So people were just stealing shit all the time. I mean, that's a pretty wacky. That's where like defund the police gets you, I guess.
I don't even know where to go with that. I had a dead end with that. And my mind shuts down now.
What do you mean?
I don't know. Just speaking to any of the systems now, it's like my brain just shuts down. It shuts off, shuts down.
Oh,
I kind of like it. It's nice. That timeline's just totally dissolved for me. You know, we're just living in a higher dimension of being now. Oh, speaking of which, I was on this rock and energy high today because I got to model with a galactic fairy friend of mine, some of the Soul family, Miss Peyton. We got to model together today, and it was the first time that I've modeled with another figure model in town. So that was a really cool experience. And when we showed up, we both had pink hair. Which was kind of cool. It turned out really, really great in the sketches. Everyone really appreciated that. Michael had dubbed us the pink-haired goddesses.
Nice.
Yeah. So we created this gorgeous energy bubble in the room. It was really electric in there today.
Speaking of two goddesses, this is a quote I had from the book Born to Run. It was talking about how like just running, like they literally said like running at first was which was for fun and just what people do, but when when money got into it, like and turned into a business, like Nike and all these sponsors and shit, like they said literally like times got slower because it wasn't like there's like money involved, and then eventually they got back up, but then it was talking about there's two goddesses in your heart. Wisdom and wealth. Wisdom should come first. Give it love and attention. Wealth will get jealous and come running after. Basically talking about like doing doing something because you want to, because it's out of your heart, not like, well, this will make me money, and so you your whole approach is that versus like
yes,
you know, going through the, because then they were relating that to like the Tarahumara people, and like they just run, they literally like they literally have like smiles on their faces when they're like at mile 80 and shit, and like when they hit, there's a big hill coming and they're like smiling and shit. And so they're talking about how, and there's like this one woman who was just super determined to like beat them, and she was like set this crazy pace, and she was way ahead of him and shit, and at this one specific race it was like 100 miles, and then she was dominating everyone, and then by like mile 80, 90, like one of the guys that said get say it's get that deer, pretend it was like a deer essentially, and they were smiling, and then they just like took off, and like they passed her, and then and she was like she literally got demoralized because she was like just mechanical running and just trying to go, and when she said when they just were just, like run by at the very toward the end when they like were running by her, she said she just like quit because she was just like, oh my god, this is like, how are they having like fun doing this? Like I'm like miserable.
She wasn't
but
passion driven anymore. Like it was.
Yeah, it's like ego based, and just like I need to win versus like these guys are just like, is what we do. This is fun. Like I'll go catch them.
When you run for joy, I'm in that mode right now too. When I'm creating business, and I'm kind of in this position where I'm pulling together all of these quilt pieces. It's kind of like creating granny squares in crochet, and then needing to connect all these granny squares together. So I have all of these various focal points, and I'm trying to draw them all together in this gorgeous quilt, this fabric, and the vision is becoming clearer and clearer of how to monetize that. But I'm just leading with the joy of creating. There's just the joy of creating all of it and whatever I'm wanting to create, and then just pulling the fabric of the quilt together to create, to monetize it. But the vision is still, it's a little murky in areas, but I can see it and I can feel it coming closer together. It's like all of these soul sisters that are also drawing closer together, and we're all of our own individual qualities and arts and businesses are overlapping in ways where I can see how there's going to be this culmination where we're all co-creating together, and it's going to create this like a sisterhood business in a way. So that's really exciting and on the horizon right now.
Sisterhood business?
Yeah.
They're all doing like one,
where there's crossover happening. I can see it coming, because we're wanting to co-create all this art and like gatherings and just cross-sectioning of passions and cross-sectioning of creations. And anyway, the reason I was saying that is because if you're doing what you love and you're doing what brings you joy, and that's your first focus, and then the money will come.
Yeah, like one of the examples it gave was like, do you remember being a kid when you're just having fun and you're just like running off, and like your parents have to tell you like slow down because because you're just in the moment and just having fun, and you're like going fast, and versus like, because I remember just like at soccer, like I would love like the game, just playing was like my favorite part, but like when they would sometimes time us for like a mile, like, and like I fucking hated that, like just get, because when I never like keep track of my times and shit, because like that it just sucks the joy of it, because then you're like, I gotta be faster,
out of it.
I gotta be faster and like just improve, and like I'm like, it's not the point.
That's why I never try to organize the girls' play. I never have, or tell them to slow down. I never discourage them from wilding out, and so sometimes they hurt themselves, but I always made sure that they were in a somewhat safe container, or at least I was close enough that I could step in whenever I needed to. But I was never one of those moms just like, slow down, you're gonna hurt yourself, which I understand, but I'm not that mom or friend or partner. I'm always going to encourage people to just while out and do them, especially if you're following your joy. I'm like, go head on into that. Of course, if I see that you're putting yourself in harm's way, then I'll be like, a little gentle. Maybe we're going a little too far. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really say it either, but there's times when, especially if it's going to be like a long thing, and I see people just going fast early, and I'm like, I just like take the wise like hawk in the back. I'm like, all right, well, we'll see how it goes by the time we're at the end, because and then you burn out quick, and so I don't know. I'm always and people need to learn that lesson through experience too. So if you tell them like, hey, you need to say, it's just, you got to let them learn that.
Yeah. You learn through experience.
It's 7:26 right now. I don't know if...
Ooh, it's time to go. It's overtime to go. We got to go.
Okay.
Okay.
This is
time to go to Taekwondo.
Banger. Thank you guys
for
stopping by, and hopefully we survive this storm. Love you.
Love from the Fringe. Thank you, Fringe family.
Hope my voice sounds better next week. Mwah.
Mwah.